remember when the analysts were saying that Li Auto is the one to buy? And right here on this channel, I was saying, no, 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 no. That's not a winning business model. Nio is the only winning business model because it all comes back to quality, superior customer service, and battery as a service. We all know that on this channel. So what has happened? Li Auto has been hit with a class action lawsuit to begin with because of inferior quality. This is why I told you guys we must have patience when it comes to Nio. We take our time in putting out our products. Sometimes we're a little impatient, right? But you see the type of products that we put out. Also, Li Auto is laying off 18% of its workforce. Yes, you heard that right. And BYD, as all of this is happening, launches in Mexico. So it's exactly like I said what is going to happen. We just have to have patience. Here in America, the administration is telling us we cannot get a superior EV. And I said this will happen. The rest of the world will enjoy this while we stay in a third world status when it comes to innovation, green energy, and what have you. Because the current administration is saying it's okay to not slow down climate change as long as we're not benefiting the most from it. So whilst all this is happening, guys, I also said that we will enter, I believe most likely after the elections, because a lot of this is just to show the American people, well, you know, we're still anti-China here. And to prove that, before we get into the meat of today's topic, take a look at this clip, guys, and then we shall continue.
But even with those tariffs, it may not be enough to keep Chinese vehicles out of the U.S. CNBC.com auto reporter Michael Wayland is here to explain. Michael, welcome. Good to have you with us. My notes say that you regard these tariffs as near-term protectionism that may delay but not stop Chinese automakers from coming more to the U.S. with EVs. Why do you say that?
I say that because I've been talking to trade and automotive professionals now for the past 24 hours, and they essentially are just calling it temporary protectionism. Like Eunice was just mentioning with Nio and BYD, they are trying to stop or at least delay the Chinese from coming here with EVs. But everyone that I've talked to has said it's pretty much just a blip on the radar. The Chinese automakers are going to come here eventually, and they're going to do it regardless of if there's a tariff or not. They don't have to import directly from China. They can go to Mexico and import from there. They can join a joint venture, or, I mean, they can also just kind of come here from China and still kind of afford the tariff. I drove the BYD Seagull, which is what Eunice was talking about, for about $10,000 in China. And even with a 100% tariff, it's still priced pretty competitively to the U.S. market.
So they can come in and they can still be competitive. That would be one way that they could take on the tariffs, just eat the tariff and still be price competitive with European or American-made brands, number one. Or number two, they could get around the tariffs by joint venturing with, say, a Mexican manufacturer, a Brazilian manufacturer, a Canadian auto factory. Yeah,
or they can just establish a presence there themselves. And we still have free trade between Mexico and Canada, and BYD specifically has been looking to build a plant in Mexico. And if they do that, then there's not anything right now telling them that they can't do that. Also, with the tariffs right now, they only address EVs. When you look at China vehicles coming to the U.S. right now, there's 4 models, specifically the General Motors Buick Envision, that they imported more than 44,000 of last year, and the tariffs actually do nothing to address that. And the Chinese aren't just looking at EVs. They're looking at ICE products, they're looking at hybrids, and they're all kind of growing very quickly globally. We see it happening in Europe, and it's just a matter of time until they kind of arrive on U.S. shores.
Michael, does the U.S. auto industry, and I'm including Tesla in that, have an answer as to how to compete with a $20,000 Chinese EV?
Not yet, without losing money. Obviously, Tesla's working on their low-price entrant, reportedly, and General Motors is also working on their Ultium platform. They're actually doing drives right now, the Chevy Equinox EV, starts at about $35,000 with the tax credits, can get you to the high 20s, but there's nothing yet to rival the Chinese kind of technology that they have. And what Nio was talking about with the battery technology and the amount of different offerings that they have, it's very true that the automakers are trying to play catch up. And these tariffs are just meant to pretty much delay or give the automakers time to adapt and try to catch up when it comes to the EV invasion for the Chinese automakers.
So let me, we do have to go, but I want to push back on that thought that that inevitably, is what I'm hearing you say, inevitably these Chinese vehicles, whether EVs or others, will make it into the U.S. market. How can you be so sure? Because the U.S. is not powerless. They could double the tariffs yet again and make it a 200% tariff or a 300% tariff. Or they could put some sort of restriction on a vehicle coming in from our trading partner in Mexico.
They could, but they could also go through a joint venture. And when you talk about the U.S. market share, we're talking about GM, Ford, and what was Chrysler, now Stellantis. They had more than 74, 75% of the market share in the 70s, 80s. And then the Japanese came in, the Koreans came in, the Germans came in. And I mean, their market share has dwindled over the past decade.
But isn't that what the U.S. is trying to avoid, a repeat of? Right.
But I mean, yes. And to be sure, and this is what people have been telling me, that I mean, the Chinese have gotten so competitive and so much better in their manufacturing that it is only a matter of time until they get here. Yeah. I've been hearing it for decades that the Chinese are coming, but they didn't have the quality and also the resources to come here. And a big hurdle for that was engines. They no longer need engines to come here. They have batteries, they have motors, and they can get here much more quickly than they could without the technology of having the engines to build them.
Thank you, Michael.
So fascinating.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to my channel, The Wealthy Mindset. It's yours truly, Money Making Mitch. And as usual, guys, this is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence and research. So I hope you all enjoyed that clip, because it's coming. And no one can stop a raging volcano. So what has happened yet again to give me confidence as to why I need to keep buying? Onvo will contribute positively to Nio's P&L when it reaches 20,000 monthly sales. Emperor William Lee says, and we know that will happen. Lee said this in response to a question about Nio's sales expectations for Onvo's first model. It's our first model, and every year I believe we're putting out one model in the Onvo brand, which we're already working on. And used English when referring to P&L. Nio's typically doesn't announce sales target or order numbers for a new model, and the reason for that is sometimes people order, but then they cancel their orders, right? So we want to be very careful of that. But in this case, there wouldn't be much canceling, would there? I know personally I would wait, so I know they will. And I also, before I go on with this article, let me also say this, and the reason for that is because it's priced perfectly. Also, it is what the people in the apartment buildings in China was waiting for, because they don't have access to charging. Booyaka! Now, its management revealed something interesting in an interview today. The company's sub-brand Onvo will contribute positively to the company's overall P&L when it reaches a sale volume of about 20,000 units a month. Nio founder, chairman, and CEO William Lee told media outlets, including CNEV Post, at a roundtable in Shanghai today. Lee made the comments in response to a question about Nio's sales and expectations for the Onvo model, and used English when referring to P&L, which in financial term means profit and loss. Do I hear profitability soon, my subscribers? What's that? Yes, yes. Nio officially launched the Onvo Ladao in China sub-brand yesterday and began pre-sales of its first model, the L60. That L does not stand for Ladao, it stands for Lion, the Lion 60. A competitor to Tesla's Model Y. The Onvo L60 has a pre-sale of 30,000, and with battery as a service, I expect about 23,000. What do you think will happen? It will be yummy for the tummy. That's what's going to happen. And its official launch deliveries are expected to begin in September. While the Onvo L60 is RMB 30,000 cheaper than the Model Y, the model still has good gross margins, Lee said. Nio's gross margins has been around 20% in the first 3 quarters of 2021, a figure that was reduced to 7.5% in the 4th quarter of last year. The company research and development costs of the past 2 to 3 years have included investments in the Onvo brand, and deliveries of the new brand first model later this year means those investments will start to materialize, Lee said. And this is why I always say to you guys, we look towards this company in terms of years, not months, not weeks, not what is the delivery going to be. Because what we're building is an empire. It takes time. So the money that we were investing in research and development, and they were saying the analysts were coming out knowing fully well what they were doing, cash burn at, I will, like Poopavosian, who's pooping in his pants, the Tatavosian, he knew this, but they won't tell you this. This is how sick, but it's a game. And once you understand and learn the game, the sky is the limit, my dear brothers and sisters, my dear Neo lions and lionesses. The money that we're getting ready to make will be outstanding. This is our retirement company. The Onvo brand will basically only launch 1 model a year. So, like I was saying, we're going to launch 1 model under the Onvo, the brand, the Alps brand. 1 model a year. If the product is done right, a single model could sell enough, as Tesla BYD has proven, he said. So now we're coming to take that market share away from them. And he's saying that if it's done right, which it has, we've seen it. We've seen the lion unveiled. It will be fantabulous, if there's such a word. Onvo's second model will be an SUV aimed at the larger families, has already completed much of its development, and will begin deliveries next year. Woohoo! You see, it's aimed at larger families. Why aren't we putting out more sedans in the cheaper segment, you may ask? It's because the Chinese love their SUVs. We know what we're doing. Fireflies for Europe and the small streets in France and Italy, etc., etc. Separately, Lee mentioned in a group interview with local Chinese language media later in the day that the Onvo Lion 60, I'm calling it the Lion 60, still has good gross margins as its current pre-sale price, and that the company won't be selling the car at a loss. The Onvo brand research and development and marketing costs are already included in Nio's investment, and the sub-brand won't be considered for a separate listing in the future, Lee said. Onvo President I Teaching told domestic media that the brand plans to set up 100 directly managed stores this year, so that when the L60 goes on sale in September, consumers will be able to experience the car in physical stores. Beautiful. Onvo stores will be located mainly in areas including the automotive trade market, and may consider allowing external cooperation or franchising in the future to expand market coverage according to AI. I believe they will also be using UXIN stores. Ushin. The brand will focus on expanding into tier 2, 3, and 4 cities, where it expects to overtake the Nio brand in terms of market share, AI said. So in these tier 2, 3, and 4 cities, these are like middle class cities, and of course it will take over the Nio brand because, of the income in those cities. And this is something that we will embrace gladly. So I hope you guys found this video yet again to be informational, inspirational, and motivational. If so, guys, do not forget to hit that thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed, you might want to think about doing so, because in this channel, we are waking up the middle class to finally get a piece of the pie. And like 50 said, we get rich or we die trying, guys.